back to the channel and welcome to our shootout of 3 affordable atmospheric emulation devices.
Okay, I'm a bit hazy on what our topic actually is today.
Interesting. Okay, well, how about I give you maybe a little hint?
Yeah, that's still not really helping a lot. I'm still not really quite clear about it.
Okay, well, maybe how about now?
Yeah, this really isn't helping much. I'm still pretty foggy on this, and now even you appear to be getting foggy about it.
A few moments later.
Ah, okay. Atmospheric emulation device. I get it. Fog machines or smoke machines. Fog or smoke machines. So where are you hiding those anyway? Aren't those things pretty typically very large?
Keith, that's the beauty of these devices. They're handheld, so I had these sitting right behind me on a stand.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You know, I hear the word fog machine and I visualize a large device like what they would have like at a Halloween party or something. Those are pretty tiny.
Exactly. So these are really easy to lug around, and they also lack the warm-up time that many of the larger units require. And then, of course, one thing to keep in mind is they have much lower output than one of those larger machines typically would have.
Yeah, I certainly would expect a smaller unit like that to produce much less fog than a larger unit would. What are the use cases that you had in mind for this anyway?
Great question, Keith. So there's a number of different use cases. Though photographers, for example, sometimes they'll like to use that with portraits to give it a little bit of texture or maybe a different atmosphere. Same thing with videographers. For small production, that might assist them in really creating kind of a mood for the scene that they otherwise wouldn't have. You know, maybe a smoky bar or a car. Or maybe, you know, something creepy, you know, think of horror movies that somehow it's always foggy, for example. And because of their size, you know, you could actually have a Halloween decoration, right? Think of, you know, some smaller decoration you want to put on your front porch or something like that, or even in the house. And, you know, take one of these devices and hide it inside or in a, you know, nearby chair or something like that and run a tube up. It really gives you, you know, a lot of possibilities because of their small size, and yet you can see how quickly we were able to fill the small studio space I have with these devices running. And then lastly, you know, like our use case, being able to use it for product B-roll, right? So some of the things that we're going to review giving you know, some more visual interest to our B-roll shot.
Yeah. Okay. I'm even thinking of even more use cases. I mean, it might not be for everyone, but yeah, for the right audience, these could be pretty useful.
Absolutely. You know, really, when you think about it, you're only limited by your own creativity.
Okay. So next question: why do we have 3 devices here?
Well, as usual, there's a bit of a story here.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
3 different manufacturers came out with these personal handheld fog devices within about 60 days of each other, and they all were going to have some significant wait times to get them.
Yeah, so you were in that situation where you wanted one, but you had no idea when really any of them were going to arrive.
Exactly.
Yeah, I see where this is going, because then you thought, oh, I'll just order all of them, and then when they all arrive, I'll just do a shootout review of all 3 of them.
Wow. That was scary accurate, Keith.
Yeah, well, I've had about 40 years to observe your behavior and where you go with things.
Maybe you missed your calling, and behavioral sciences could have been another career field for you.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about that. You've been a 40-year-long case study. I don't know how scalable that is. But anyway, let's just jump in and review these devices.
Fair enough. So first we have the PMI SmokeNinja. This is a follow-up product to their very popular high-end unit called the Smoke Genie. Next we have the Ulanzi FILMOG, which is kind of an interesting name, Ace. And it is, I believe, their first foray into the personal fog machine space. And then we have one by LensGo. This is the fog machine model Smoke S, okay? And they actually have another model, I think it's like the Smoke C or something like that. So anyway, these are the 3 devices that we're going to be taking a look at.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only brand name that I'm familiar with is Ulanzi, and I wouldn't say they're like a household brand name, but anyone who does a lot of film and video stuff, Ulanzi does make a lot of camera things, cages and ball heads and adapters and accessories, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, generally speaking, that's probably going to be the case for most people. I mean, Ulanzi makes a lot of different accessories that people, whether they're big into photography or not, may end up running across one of the accessories they make. Now, in terms of the handheld fog machine space, PMI is actually a pretty big name. I mean, they've got a couple generations of their Smoke Genie product, and so it may be, if it's not the first, it's probably one of the first in that space to come out with something that you could literally hold in your hand and use on set and put it kind of wherever you wanted to. Now, one of the things that's probably kept that particular unit, the Smoke Genie, out of people's hands is the $750 price tag.
Wow. Yeah, that is some big bucks for a fog machine.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, if you look at that space, it's got a lot of unique features, including being able to daisy chain multiple Smoke Genies together in order to create scenes and run them off of a single remote. Things that really, none of these devices are really going to give you. And so if you're in a space where you're making money off of your productions and you need the ability to have something small, portable, even if it's, you've got 4 or 5 of them and you can use them tied together or individually, it really is a niche that they've positioned themselves into.
Okay, yeah. As soon as you say it's for the film industry, even if it's a smaller product, I'm sure the prices will just jump significantly right then and there.
Exactly. And the Smoke Genie can run pretty much nonstop until you empty the fog juice in the chamber. So it'll run continuously until you drain that.
Ugh, fog juice. Yeah. But it is interesting the way that you say that, though, that I can imagine that the total runtime or the ability to sustain output, how big the reservoir of fog juice is probably a differentiator amongst these 3 products. Or maybe it's not based on capacity, maybe it's also based on overheating.
Spot on, Keith. So these small devices, have an atomizing chamber, as I'll call it, and that chamber heats up, and the fog juice, a mixture. It's not just glycerin, but basically a glycerin. And by the way, this fog juice, once it's atomized, is creating fog or smoke that is safe to breathe, and that's obviously an important thing, that we're not using chemicals that are going to be harmful to models and such. But anyway, that's how it creates that fog. And these devices can range from 20 to 40 watts, possibly even more, in that little handheld unit. And that's a lot of heat creation, right, that has to be dissipated in such a small unit.
Yeah, and just looking at those designs, it appears like the chambers that hold the fluid are going to have fluid within them during operation. If they're operating while empty, it seems like they're definitely going to burn themselves up and destroy themselves.
That is correct, Keith. You do require fluid to be in there as well. Most of the manufacturers have some, throttling mechanism that can be tied to the heat that's being generated and basically shut the unit down should it be exposed to too much heat and potentially damage the unit.
Yeah, it feels like we're doing a little bit of foreshadowing here, perhaps. So let's go ahead and jump in to the pricing of each of these 3 products and maybe talk about some of the features and some of the pros and cons of each. And if possible, let's go ahead and talk about a first, second, and third place for these bad boys.
Keith, this is what the pricing looks like as of today, March of 2024. So on the SmokeNinja, this is currently $249. The Ulanzi device is currently $109, and the LensGo Smoke S is $129. So that's, as of today, what the pricing retail is for each of these devices.
It's interesting, just laying eyes on them and just hearing the brand names. I'm already kind of drawn to the LensGo. I have no idea which one you're going to like the most, but somehow I'm feeling the vibes from the LensGo, just the look and the branding. But interesting on those price ranges. So let's talk about the kits. What's included, and let's dive into how each of them performs. Let's talk about value and what your picks and rankings are, not my gut feel.
Okay, let's go ahead and jump in. So let me preface some of the information about the pricing with the fact that we already kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want to get a little more specific, that each of these devices was purchased on either a Kickstarter, an Indiegogo, or a self-managed initial product, a launch. So I did not pay the prices that we stated, and I'll highlight that as we go through each of the products so that you can know, where they landed on that initial, hey, we really want to get these out there and get people trying them price. So starting with the most expensive, the SmokeNinja. This device comes with the unit itself, a nice carrying case that is shaped to hold all the accessories. It does come with a quarter 20 mount as well as a magnetic mount. You can put each of them on either side, and it can actually be taken off. There's 2 batteries that ship with it, and then there are several accessories. I'm going to pull this tube off. These accessories, what I like to call the shaping tubes and accessories, because some of them are actually designed to change how that smoke or the fog looks, and we'll see that further as we start talking about how we make this fog look different. Steam versus fog versus maybe dry ice, for example. Some of those types of characteristics to the fog. As well, the kit shipped with 200 milliliters of fog juice. I think it's now shipping with 100 in the retail. And then as well, I'm going to pull this off just so you can see it. It came with the one atomizer chamber, but it also shipped as a bonus as part of the Indiegogo launch. Actually, I'm sorry, the Kickstarter. This one was Kickstarter. It came with a separate extra chamber that was in a canister to hold that. That's for long-term storage. But this extra atomizer, at least from them, is a $55 value. So, I won't say that brought the cost of the kit down to under $200 because this is a consumable item that's good for around 100 hours is what they rate it for. So I really won't get the value of that until I go through one of my chambers. And then lastly, the kit does come with a single button wireless remote, and that way you can place this device one place, maybe you've got it hidden someplace, and then use the remote to activate the fog machine.
Okay, yeah, that seems like a pretty nice bundle. So now let's shift gears and go over to the LensGo Smoke S, the one that I kind of am feeling the vibes for.
So let's next talk about the LensGo, as you requested. This is the simplest of the devices. There's basically 2 buttons, an on-off switch and the button to activate it. But the interesting thing is this kit comes with the most shaping accessories. So these little bits, right, that you get to redirect where the smoke is going and how it's shaped and all of those types of things. It comes with the most, and it's certainly not the most expensive kit in our bundle. It also does come with that hard soft case, right? They all do. As well, there were 6 12 milliliter bottles in the kit that were in 2 different boxes that were sandwiched on either side of the device in the kit. There also is a single button remote to activate this device remotely.
Great. Simple. 2 buttons, simple. I liked simple. But before we get into how perhaps not simple, I suppose, some of the other devices are, why don't we just go ahead and jump into the third device, which is, what is that, Ulanzi?
Great. So the Ulanzi unit obviously comes with the unit itself. The remote is integrated in, right? So this actually removes. But so there is a remote that's included. You can use it attached or not as well. It probably comes with the second most bits and pieces for shaping the smoke. So that's nice. Obviously, it does also have a hard soft case, right? Again, I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but the hard soft case that it comes with the 2 batteries that's in the kit. And then as well, we've got a chamber holder. So the canister, again, for the chamber. So when you're not using it, you can actually put the chamber in that, especially if it's got fluid in it, and that way it's not potentially going to leak out.
Interesting. So if I'm keeping score, 2 of the devices do come with holders or canisters, if you will, to protect the atomizer from leaking fluid, but the LensGo does not.
Correct. I did discover the hard way that the LensGo unit, that this chamber, outside of being installed in the device, will leak. I was actually filling it up and giving it its initial fill, and I don't know why I was doing it. I was filling it up outside of being attached to this and had it kind of propped up, and lost the better part of one of my bottles of 12 milliliters of smoke fluid in the process. So they don't give you that chamber, as we discussed, for storage. What they do give you, though, if I remove this threaded top piece here, if I get this exposed, they give you 2 rubber plugs to put in here, and I think the idea is that the base unit itself and those rubber plugs will allow you to tip this down and store it for an extended period of time. But they do not give you a way to store that chamber external, and because there's nothing to store it in external, the idea is you must have to store the chamber attached to the unit.
Yeah, and I remember during show prep we were talking about the SmokeNinja has those little rubber plugs to do kind of what the LensGo is sort of forcing you to do, which is to also, secure the fluid in that atomizer chamber while it's attached to the unit, which is, I guess, what would be appropriate or doable for short-term storage, maybe less than a month, so that you don't have to jump through the extra hoops of trying to drain the fluid from the atomizer chamber to store it. And yeah, so I guess it is a useful thing to be able to have one of those separate canisters if you're trying to store long term.
Correct, Keith. And I have to tell you that the LensGo, it makes me a little nervous storing this long term with just that plug up there and this attached. I don't know. I have visions of coming back a month later and the thing is covered in glycerin. And I don't know if you've ever gotten glycerin on your hands. It's a very slimy, think like dishwashing soap, right? It's a very slimy type substance. Not what you want all over your storage case and your device, So anyway, I guess really time is going to tell.
Yeah, okay. So I believe you have some videos of each of the units in action that we can show while we talk about how each performed.
Okay, so let's go in reverse order of how we listed them in the first place. So that would mean we're going to start talking about the Ulanzi unit. And you'll see from the video as we're playing it here, it puts out a good amount of fog. As a matter of fact, in terms of maybe keeping the fog lower, closer to the unit as I was putting it out, I might have actually handicapped the Ulanzi unit just a little bit because I had the fog juice turned up high. I also had the fan turned up high. So that we haven't talked a lot about that feature, but the Ulanzi actually gives you the ability to control the output volume of air along with how much formula basically it is atomizing at one time. So the idea would be that more formula, the thicker the fog, and that's going to help you emulate things like the dry ice effect, which is when we get to the PMI SmokeNinja, then you're going to see what I'm talking about. So it performed really well. Didn't have any limitations in terms of how much time it ran. It just let me go for as long as I wanted to go. So while the test was going on, this really, even though I had it set, all the way to maximum on the smoke juice, so to speak, it barely really impacted how much that smoke juice was gone. As a matter of fact, the chamber, I don't know if you can see that very well or not, but the chamber's still, after all that testing, very, very full. The remote, and I'll show a separate video of that, but the remote gives you the ability to select 6 different settings for both the juice consumption, or the mix ratio or rate, along with 6 levels of fan. And again, that is what's giving you the ability to customize how the unit is working.
Yeah, and by the way, there's another slippery slope. I mean, it's nice at first when you see a remote that just has maybe 2 or 3 buttons, because you imagine, oh, it's simple. But if what it's controlling actually isn't simple, there really are like 10,000 things to do, then it's kind of a lie. And then it becomes more of a burden to navigate all of that stuff through only 3 buttons.
That's correct, Keith. And with the controls on the remote, the plus, minus, and then the power/function button, right? That's a dual function button. You can actually get into a secondary menu that, along with controlling the amount of juice that it's using and the fan levels, you can control things like infinite runtime or cycle runtime, so it starts, stops, those types of things. So there's a lot of controls that you can get into using those 3 buttons.
I kind of don't like that. I don't know what your gut or how you felt about having to access so many functions through such a simple remote, but I'm suspecting that it's maybe not a good thing.
Yeah, me too, Keith. I don't know why manufacturers do that, but it definitely ends up being a situation where I have a tendency to get stuck in a menu someplace because I don't remember which button gets me out of that menu and back to home, if you will. But all of that aside, I have to say this is a pretty dang good unit.
Interesting. Pretty dang good unit. Bruce is letting the cat out of the bag maybe a little early before the conclusion. We'll see. But let's go ahead and look at the LensGo S.
So as you can see from the video, you turn the unit on, you press the button and tell it to go, and it goes. Right? So from that standpoint, Keith, I think this is something that you would appreciate. Just literally power it on, press the button either on the device or the remote, and let it go away.
Yeah, you know me. That's what I like. Go, baby, go. Simple.
Correct, Keith. So you're really only bound by the limits of the battery and the juice. And quite honestly, I think it's the battery that's going to limit you. I think they state the run time with a full charge on the battery at 12 minutes of use. And to get that 12 minutes of runtime, it's going to take you about 2 hours to fully charge this unit.
A lot of sunlight coming through the window now. I also noticed that you didn't really have a lot of trouble running this device as really as long as you wanted to on the test. Okay, and now finally on to the SmokeNinja. And I must say, with that kind of a name, expectations are pretty high, right?
So funny that you said that, Keith, because up front, I have to tell you, I had super high expectations for this device, and I really, really wanted to love it.
Uh-oh. The way you said that doesn't sound good. But, the godfather of retail, Spider-Man, as he always says, with great price comes great responsibility. I'm guessing from watching the video here that the problem is the throttling of the output, right, that the device is doing. It looks like it'll run for a bit and then kind of need to rest and let the status bars move in and out of the red and into the green. It appears the status bars on the top kind of work their way down, giving you a visual representation of the current runtime available. It seems like that's probably a good thing, although it didn't seem to be an issue with the other 2 devices that we reviewed. So I don't know. Am I on to something here?
That's exactly right, Keith. So let me explain a little bit about the SmokeNinja here. We have 4 buttons. One of them is the power button. And then the other 3 are mode selectors, and they allow you to choose between fog, dry ice, and steam. I will tell you, my absolute favorite is the dry ice. When we look at what the dry ice is basically doing, is it gives it that really smooth, billowing, floating, very slow moving dry ice effect. And so it's just cool. It's just really cool. Now, one thing to keep in mind, and the SmokeNinja people are very upfront about this. It's in the instructions, it's online in the specs, and that depending on the mode that you pick, you're going to have a different throttling that's going to come into play. So dry ice is the mode that is going to have the least amount of run time, and they state about 30 seconds. I don't think I got a full 30 seconds of run time out of that. And then fog is supposed to give us about a minute or so, and I don't think I got a minute of runtime out of the fog setting as well. And then lastly, the steam setting is the least strenuous for the unit to produce, and that's supposed to give us 2 minutes of continuous output, or in that ballpark. I don't know that any of the modes are giving me quite what they're stated. And that's disappointing because this unit is the most expensive of the three that we're talking about, and it's really not even that close.
Yeah, that is a little bit disappointing. So what do you think is the deal behind that?
Okay, so I have no proof, and I hate to be cynical, but as we've discussed a little bit, PMI makes a bigger brother to this product called the Smoke Genie. That device sells for 3 times the cost of this particular unit. And so, there's a certain amount of performance, I guess, that if you found in this device that, was 1/3 the cost of their premium device, would you be willing to spend $750 on a unit if there wasn't inherently, some major difference? Now, mind you, the Smoke Genie versus the SmokeNinja is more of a system like the Ulanzi, where you dial in a formula, and they give you so many formulas that give you, these quick, easy buttons that I have on the SmokeNinja. They give you the ability to create a formula, and then you can do any other formula that you want. So if you want to make adaptations of the dry ice effect, or the fog, or the steam effect, you can do so with the Ninja. So there's still value. It's also, this is much smaller. So maybe, just maybe, they've built some protection into this unit that exists to keep it safe and not catch on fire or something like that. Or it could be that they're protecting that more expensive product line and limiting the capabilities of this device through software in order to keep the two product lines separate and both selling.
Yeah, whatever's going on, it is disappointing. I mean, if it is a price protection thing to keep the high-priced unit and the low-priced unit from cannibalizing each other's sales, I mean, it's disappointing. It's logical, though. I mean, it kind of makes sense. Hello, light. Whoa. Yeah, so I get it. And the other two, Ulanzi and LensGo, they don't have that issue, right? So maybe that's why their units just run forever. There's no need to protect any other product line. But it could be a thermal issue, right? I mean, put my engineer hat on, I can appreciate throttling down and putting some safeguards on overheating. But again, the other two products aren't doing that. So I guess what I would say is, if a month from now, I don't know how often you're going to be using these, Bruce, but if in a month from now, the LensGo and the Ulanzi just break down from overheating, then we should do a follow-up episode here and say, oh, thank goodness that PMI has those software protections in there. Otherwise, you're just going to buy something that breaks in 2 weeks. But yeah, I don't know. To be seen, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a shame because, quite honestly, there's a lot to really like about this unit. It feels the best made. Not that the others are poorly made, but it just feels good in the hand and feels solid. The features are well thought out. I mean, you can't mess up, push the button, right, for the different modes, and just little things like the shield has a lock on it, so it can't be, accidentally knocked off. It's just, really a shame, in my opinion, that, the dry ice mode on this, I think, is the best of the three. So it did the best job, or created, in my opinion, the most pleasing dry ice effect. But what I struggled with was getting enough of that dry ice for my shot before it started throttling. I really struggled to lay down as much as I wanted down in my scene. And so the point that it starts limiting your capabilities, that's when you're going to say this is no bueno.
Yeah, or the other thing you might be thinking is, gosh, I wish I bought the Smoke Genie instead of the SmokeNinja. I should upgrade now. Yeah, it is everything that you're saying about the build quality. I know that doesn't come across necessarily on a video, but the feel in the hand, the solidness of the build, those things very much resonate with me as well, right? And so it is disappointing that you're just not getting the output that you need. That's sad.
Keith, I completely agree. I mean, but let's face it, right? In engineering, it all comes down to the execution. So you can do so many things right in something like this, and how you execute the actual operation, really makes the difference. Love the ease, right? Pick what you want. I already touched on this before. Already touched on the locking element here. Just lots of things that there are to like, right? PMI even has a couple of videos online that show this unit being dropped from a height of 2 meters, right? So the height of a little more than average human being, and it just keeps on going, right? Now, it's not recommended you do that with your unit, but they do want to illustrate the fact that it's made well enough to, take some of the abuse that maybe someone incidentally would expose it to.
All right, so why don't we fly through the kits really quick, just show the cases and the accessories that are included with each one of them, and highlight a feature or two that sets the units apart.
So I'll show you the SmokeNinja kit here, and although it should be noted that all the cases are really nice, and they're all that, as I've been describing them, the hard soft case, right? Again, the oxymoron that we've discussed. The SmokeNinja kit has the molded sections for all of the items, right? So if I take out the juice that came with it, it fits in here. There's a spot for remote. I accidentally bought a 4-unit remote, not realizing that the unit came with a remote at the time, but no big deal. It wasn't terribly expensive, but here's the extra chamber that it comes with, and the magnetic mount that goes into the side of the unit, so you can put this on either side. You can also have the Q20, you can have the magnetic on there at the same time, so there's storage spots for those. And then in the upper portion of the pouch, you've got some of the accessory pieces. Here is the foam. This is the unit that you use for the dry ice. And then I've got a couple of extra tubes that I just didn't get back into the plastic bag, and the rubber stoppers that it comes with. And they do give you some modesty panels that if you want your SmokeNinja to have those filled, these rubber pieces go in there so that it covers up the gaps in the side for you. So, I mean, lots of extra, little accessories. There's even a brief little instruction sheet here. And I didn't mention in the original kit contents, but it does have the USB cable. It does not come with the charger part itself, but it does come with the cable, which seems to be the going trend, right? That all these things come with a USB-C cable, but they do not come with the actual charger unit itself. Speaking of charging, this unit does charge, I believe, in 90 minutes. So it does support 90-minute fast charging. So we've talked about, the quick selection of the various modes to use with the device: the steam, the dry ice, the fog, the power button. It does have a accidental shut off, so you have to actually press the button 3 times to turn it on, turn it off, which is a nice feature, right? It keeps you from doing that. The battery is actually stored in here, so it has a single 3300 milliamp battery, and this is replaceable, so that's kind of nice that you have that capability on the unit.
Yeah, it is interesting that the Q20 and the magnetic connectors are detachable. Yeah, that's cool. I think it might have been good to have the Q20 on the bottom, but this probably works too, having it on the side.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate having the Q20 and having the magnetic piece. Maybe the execution could have been, a little bit better. Maybe it's just built right into the body, either on the side or on the bottom, or maybe a combination of both. But it's in the execution again.
Okay, so let's talk about the LensGo. LensGo!
Overall, the LensGo case is nice, but I would deem it maybe a bit more generic. So the way it shipped from LensGo silicon pack here is this unit slid in. If you notice, it's got, you know, the netting on the top and the bottom, so they're basically generic. You could probably interchange them if you really wanted to. But the unit shipped here, these two boxes have the fluid in them, and then this is the plethora of accessories that it shipped with. I mean, there's actually, you know, a long rubber tube, the whole 9 yards. There's another charging cable. Again, everyone gives you the charging cable, not the charger. I think this is to kind of emulate the steam effect. So there's just a narrow opening in that. So it's going to give you a different shape of the fog. This is our dry ice. Again, that seems to be the common thread in terms of how you create dry ice. And then the stopper for the top to keep the juice from leaking out when you're not using it. And I actually really appreciate, you know, the long hose, the curved hose with some distance on it, and then the short piece that we have. So, you know, it's interesting how they choose to do these accessories. I know for the SmokeNinja, you could actually buy the accessory kit that is for the Smoke Genie because the openings are the same size. But again, you're talking like another $60, $70 for an already more expensive unit versus this unit's $135, $129, whatever it is, and it comes with all this stuff with it. So it's you know, a pretty nice kit. And again, the case is that hard soft case. So you know, as we talk about the unit itself, probably a major omission. There's no magnetic mount. There's no quarter 20 mount anywhere to be found on the unit. There's no attachment to make it have that. That's kind of a downside. It does have, you know, a clear top, so you can see what your status of your smoke fluid is, right? The fog juice, as some like to call it. You have to take this off to remove the plastic lid, so that's kind of a bummer. Versus the other ones, I think you can just slide those right off without having to do so. This does lock on, so that's kind of a nice benefit, although you have to turn it the right way to do it. It's kind of, it's the righty loosey, lefty tighty. That's going to mess with you, right? So you can't use your cheat to remember how to do that. Again, we've got the simple operation, power on, push the button, and it does those things. So there's a few things that are missing. The remote that's included will activate the device, and this works from the standpoint of you push the button and it turns the device on and it runs until you tell it you want to stop. So that's probably a good, maybe a bad thing. So if you want more accurate control, you might lose that a little bit because I've noticed there's just a little bit of lag, or sometimes it doesn't, you know, catch your first push of the button. And then lastly, of the minuses, this is completely sealed. The other two have removable, changeable batteries, user changeable. This appears to be sealed. Now, maybe from the pricing standpoint, at least compared to the Ninja, you know, you could get a couple of these. So if the battery ever does die, the unit's going to probably have to be replaced, and maybe you're, you know, just as well off versus replacing the battery and the overall cost of the SmokeNinja.
You know, it's amazing when, I mean, I know you talked about a lot of things, but the whole violation of the righty-tighty, lefty-loosey thing does make me wonder what a conscious decision that must have been to make it that way. I wonder if it's not a universal thing, if it's just like a Western culture thing. I don't know. But anyway, let's go on to the Ulanzi.
Hey, Keith, real quick, I have a theory on your lefty-loosey, righty-tighty rule violation. It might be that the top, this element, is righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. And so maybe if the plastic piece was the same, it would actually cause you to, you know, make this come undone. But because they're opposite, you're not going to knock it loose. I don't know. That's my theory. I'm covering for him, I guess, since you love to LensGo. Anyway, on the Ulanzi case, again, very nice case. You know, all of them are actually customized with the name of the device on the outside. And I know that's probably something that you appreciate, Keith, because, you know, all of these generic soft hard cases or hard soft case, whatever you want to describe it as, they blend together. So if you don't have any labeling on it, how do you figure out which one it is? So anyway, here we kind of have a middle ground, right, between what they've done on the LensGo side of things and what they've done on the SmokeNinja side, where there's a big opening. I had to take this out to put it in here, but there's a big opening. I can put that in there, and it is somewhat molded for that. Now, I guess it's really kind of molded because it's a rectangle, so I guess that's a molded rectangle for it. And then we have a molded spot for the fog liquid, as they call it, and then it has a nice cap so that it doesn't leak out. And then obviously you'd want to get at least the replacement bottles that fit in this size. You have the canister, and then my unit shipped with a battery box, right? So it had a couple of batteries, and it does use 2 of these 18650 batteries, which is a fairly standard lithium-ion battery. I've seen these kits with a plastic container for the batteries versus this box, so I don't know why mine was different. And then I would say that the Ulanzi, is on the lighter side of the spectrum in terms of the items that it comes with, the tips and such. But that's okay. But here's the fog, or the dry ice filter, and then this actually belongs to the Ulanzi as well. So it's the the gorilla stand type effect. So it's once you've started moving this around, you'll probably never get it perfectly straight again. So I've ruined it. But anyway, this twists into this connector that goes in to convert the output of the top of this protection cage over to what holds on to the accessories. I think I might be missing a tube that I have laying around someplace that's supposed to be able to make this longer. But regardless, nice set of accessories. This cap just kind of pulls on and off. I would like it maybe if this was able to be locked in place. I don't know. I just think that would be, I think that's a nice thing they could borrow from the SmokeNinja people. But anyway, so I appreciate, the remote that, keeps you from potentially losing it. Keith, you might be able to find a way to still lose it, but it does have a little docking area there for it. So there is a detailed manual that goes over the information about the remote and setting up the modes. I think that's important because, as we've touched on, this is highly customizable, and that's a double-edged sword, right? That's a good and a bad thing, just depending on your point of view and what your preferences would be.
Okay, so after all of that and after all the tests that you've run, let's get to the rankings that you have for each of these 3 devices.
So Keith, in somewhat of a maybe surprise finish, maybe it was going at 20-1. I'm actually gonna say the Ulanzi takes it, right? So there's several factors. One thing I forgot to mention is the special launch for this device. I actually got it for $88, which is just a great price. Right, I think it's about the same price as I paid for the LensGo as part of the Indiegogo. The device supports fast charging, so 90 minutes from empty to full, and that's going to give you, they say, greater than 10 minutes of runtime, and I think that there's some ambiguity there because of the fact that it's going to depend on which settings, right, that you customize it to. So the remote is actually a really nice functional piece. Again, you can use it in the device. You can remove it from the device. I think it gives you up to 10 meters of distance from the smoke device. It's got enough accessories. I'd like to have seen it maybe come with some others, and who knows, maybe they'll release a package of some additional items if people are asking for it. But I imagine you could probably also find some tubing that's the right size and maybe connect it up on your own. But as well, the quarter 20, it does have one, so that's good. The runtime, I was never limited in terms of continuous runtime. Maybe if I was trying to run them longer than what I did in the 10-minute or more range, then I'd run into that limitation. But I'll be perfectly honest. You saw what little time we were running at the beginning of the episode and how full of smoke the area became. So 20 minutes, or more than 10 minutes of runtime with one of these, you can fill a good-sized room pretty quickly with one of these. that doesn't have that throttling factor going on.
Okay, Ulanzi for the win. So I think second place, though, is going to be interesting. Let's see.
Keith, the battle for second place, I think, is a little too close to call. There's upsides and downsides to both of these units. So if the Smoke Genie had better run times, they didn't have the limitations that we're running into, probably be an easy choice to give it the nod for second place solely. But the run times that it has, the LensGo doesn't have those limitations. What the LensGo gives up is user replaceable batteries, and the fact that there's no quarter 20, no magnetic mount. It doesn't even, you can see it's wobbling, right? That's me just putting it down, and it wobbles. So that makes you, worry. And the fact that it has a remote, clearly it's probably designed to have, someone activating the remote remotely, and, and having this device sitting someplace else. I guess someone could be holding it and someone's responsible for activating it, but I envision more that someone's got this sitting someplace, mounted someplace, hidden inside of a device or an object, and that's why they're using the remote. And so you kind of miss out on the ability to, keep this secured. I guess you're going to have to rig up some kind of small arm and clamp and, do that to mount it someplace. The SmokeNinja really has, an elegant design, simple, easy way to select between the different modes that you want. And obviously your accessories are going to shape your smoke design with the LensGo, and that's fine. This device doesn't necessarily depend on that as much because it's going to change the formula. This LensGo always has the same smoke formula. It's just how that gets shaped by the accessories that you're using. So because each device has pros and cons that may land squarely in one way or another for you, one of these might be better than the other for your personal needs, and so that's why I ranked them the same, right? So you might decide that the SmokeNinja has more of what you need in the bundle, and you'd prefer those features, or you might look at the LensGo and say, this is clearly, from a price perspective or the accessories and all that and the simplicity, that might be more your priorities. And so that's why these two are finishing, tied for second place.
Yeah, I think we did a good job with that. So makes sense. Ulanzi on top, and SmokeNinja, and what was the other one? LensGo. Kinda maybe depends on you. I agree with that. Yeah, so thank you. You've stayed this long to watch the end of the video. Please give us a like. Please subscribe. It really does help out the channel. We really do appreciate it. And ring the bell to get notifications for more exciting things like personal fog machines.
All right, well, there you have it. Another episode in the books. You'll see both of us, Keith and Bruce, on the next episode of Dad's Talk Tech.